All right, Robbie. It feels like we're officially a real curling podcast because we are doing an emergency insert. We recorded the show yesterday. You're going to hear everything we recorded yesterday after this, but breaking news just dropping today. Brad Gushue announcing that he is dropping EJ Harnden from the lineup. No replacement as yet, but EJ Harnden out as the second of Team Gushue. Your immediate thoughts when you saw that drop this afternoon?
Well, I thought it was a joke when I first saw it. I was thinking, I know he had a rough final and they lost 2 finals in a row, so not obviously what they were hoping for, but I never dreamed that he would be dropped from the team, especially this time of year. All the talk we've had about timing of players getting cut with the Gauthier situation, this ties into that. And my heart goes out to EJ. He's a great guy and a hard worker, but at the end of the day, it's business. And if Brad and the team didn't think he was a good fit, then they have to do what they have to do. I'm sure EJ will land on his feet and could mean there's another great team coming in the Canadian curling landscape as well. I'd like to hear your thoughts.
Well, we're going to talk about that in a little bit. We talked about it yesterday. You're going to hear us talk about the Team Kooi news and all of that in a little bit. But yeah, I mean, I think it's really, I think most of us would say the timing is the curious part. Certainly, I had heard some rumblings this summer that maybe this was possible. I think we've sort of noticed, even if you just watch the games, that, Brad hasn't always seemed the most enthused at times with EJ's play. I mean, obviously we know EJ, unbelievable sweeper. I think it's been a hard adjustment for EJ too. I think Brad, changed the way that EJ was sliding or tried to change it to match up with what him and Mark and Jeff have been doing for the last decade. And I think that was tricky, but it's really the timing, right? I mean, in the summer, you would have had options. You would have been able to, it's your Brad Gushue. You would have been able to pick up probably almost anybody. Now we're 3 events into the season. It seemed like I just can't wrap my head around what was the final straw. What was it where Brad said, okay, we got to make this move in the middle of October, 3 events into the season. It's wild.
Well, especially for this team. When I was trying to explain it to my wife a minute ago, what this means. She's not super into curling. She likes it, but I wouldn't say she's a diehard fan, but there's so much more to it than just curling. They are Team Gushue. Team Gushue, people can say what they want. They are the Hulk Hogan of curling. They get the loudest applause. They draw the biggest fans. Doesn't matter where you are in the country. So there's a lot more to it than just shot making for perhaps other teams who just cut a player and get a new one. There's marketing, there's sponsorship. Like these guys probably, I'm assuming, have a lot of money. And, they're fans. They are one of the few teams that truly have fans, like die-hard fans in the sport. And, those fans have emotional attachments to this team. EJ was very popular with them. So it's in a way a lot bigger for Gushue to drop a player than other teams, in my opinion. Feel free to disagree.
No, I completely agree with you. And I think you're right. Like, when you talk about putting together sponsorship videos and arranging events for sponsors and all of that kind of thing, is EJ getting some money on his way out the door? I don't know how all of these agreements came together. Curling teams are a little bit tight-lipped about that, but yeah, I mean, I think that's all, let's just say there would have been things they would have had to work out once they knew that EJ, was going to be leaving. Brad, I saw Gregory Strong from the Canadian Press got a quick piece out. Brad declined an interview request, but said the split was amicable. That's interesting. I think, maybe, but, I just, the timing of it is just so curious to me. And I think we're always going to be wondering, was it truly amicable? Was the what was the inciting incident, the final straw. We're never going to know that, but that's definitely what I'm going to be thinking about for the next week or so.
No, and to go back to what you first said about EJ coming into this team and sort of maybe feeling a little bit uncomfortable, he changed his slide, that sort of thing. The other thing about EJ is he played with the same guys for a lot of years. So it's not like he did a quad with 4 guys, then did another quad with 4 different guys, and then joined this team. He was with Jacobs for what, 8 years or more?
Yeah, more. Yeah. I mean, with Brad and Ryan, more. Yeah.
Oh,
they
exactly.
obviously rotated thirds. They had a few different guys or rotated team members. EJ was the third for quite a while. But yeah, the 3 of them, I think, we're talking over a decade easily.
Yeah. So that begs the question, one's gone. That means one's coming in.
Yeah. It was funny because my first instinct, and I tweeted this, was Brad Thiessen, just because of the sweeping. I know that Brad, Brad's obviously a great sweeper, one of the best. He's on the bench right now. So as far as, working that out, it's maybe a little bit easier than trying to poach someone from another team. I sort of brought that up to another top curler, and they said, well, the one thing about that is Brad and Jeff sweep on the same side. Now, could they switch? Maybe, I don't know. But they do sweep on the same side. So perhaps that's an issue. But that's definitely a name I'd be watching. Maybe you could talk a little bit. We sort of mysteriously saw your old skipper, Adam Casey, just appear out of thin air onto Brad Gushue's bench this weekend. We know Jeff Hoffert is the coach there. And I saw on the broadcast, they did refer to Adam Casey as Team Gushue's alternate. Now, whether that was just for the slam or for the season or whatever, I mean, you got the PEI connection. Tell me about Adam Casey in the mix here.
Well, I talked to him in Charlottetown, and the word that I got was he was the 5th man at the slam and also joining them as the 5th at the Pan-Continental.
Okay.
Now, he didn't say more than that, but he did give me the Casey smirk. So I can't confirm or deny, but he didn't say no, but that was a name that definitely popped into my head. Adam Casey is a very good curler and a very good sweeper. And the thing about Casey that kind of sparked my interest in maybe him returning with Brad is Adam's an all or nothing guy. And if he has the opportunity to rejoin that team, a team kind of on the top of the mountain, Adam doesn't have 99 in him. He's got 100% effort. And so he would certainly fit the role in that regard. Everybody knows Gushue, how hard they work, how much they practice, and how much they play. So that's not a name I would rule out. I like your idea of Brad Thiessen. I had thought about that, but I was kind of expecting that with the Kooi change.
Yeah.
But then I thought I had heard a comment that he's not interested. So maybe I falsely or mistakenly just kind of put that thought out of my mind. But then that brings the question back to what's Jock up to? That's another name you can't just throw away instantly. But other than that, that's the thing is, we're into the season. It's not like this is
totally
June.
I mean, I think Kyle Deering is obviously another name people will think of with the Sluchinski team, maybe not breaking up, but certainly they lost their skip. We know Kyle went as the 5th with Team Gushue to Worlds. Here's a sneaky name for you, Robbie. Well, maybe not that sneaky, but here's a sneaky name that I've heard from a few people already. Obviously, this happened. You can see my background. I'm in Vancouver right now. I'm here for the weekend visiting my family. So I'm in my dad's office, and we were out for lunch. The plane just landed. My phone starts blowing up. But here's a sneaky name for you, Brendan Bottcher.
Never thought of him.
Brendan Bottcher. Coming into play second, that would probably necessitate Mark Nichols sweeping and Brendan being in the house. Yeah. So I don't know how Brad would feel about that. We know that Brad is a creature of habit. We know that him and Mark have been working together in the house. It's either that or Brendan Bottcher takes the hardest 3-week sweeping crash course we've ever seen in curling history. As a lifetime skip, he might have to learn how to sweep and judge very quickly. But I do wonder if that's a sneaky option. I know that Bottcher and Jeff Hoffert are friends. I know that this is the type of move that I could see Brendan go. I shouldn't say I know, but this is the type of move that I could see Brendan going for. Again, like we talked about with Adam Casey, it's the top of the mountain team. right?
Oh, yeah.
And, Brendan Bottcher is a second. I don't know how that would work out. I don't know if that's a possibility, but that is a name I'm keeping an eye on for sure as well.
Oh, I thought you were joking when you said a sneaky name, because that was literally the first thought I had when I heard about this.
Yeah.
Arguably the top 3 shooters in Canada is sitting on the bench without a team. Of course, you're going to call him. That would probably be my pick.
Yeah.
Again, I'm not up in the gossip right now. I honestly, it's not like I'm holding something back here, but I mean, how could you not, just for his shooting ability? And I think that would work. I think Brad and Brendan are both very analytical people, so it might be a good fit. I wouldn't be surprised one bit. And Brendan has certainly proved himself over the years that he puts the work in. He understands what it takes to have that responsibility as one of the top teams in Canada. And he's worn the Maple Leaf. So he's been to the show. I think it's a pretty safe bet. That's probably who I would go with.
Yeah, well, and I think too, the thing with Brendan, right, is he came up through the University of Alberta program with Rob Krebs, and we know one of the things that Rob really works on with curlers is uniform deliveries and releases. That's kind of one of the first things when they get, new kids into the U of A program. That's kind of where they start. So Brendan's also the type of guy that I think would be open and malleable to a potential slide or release change, because he's done it before. I think with EJ, the question was always like, he got on the team with Brad when he's 40 years old, and he's been throwing the same way his whole life and throwing very, very well, Olympic gold medalist, world champion. And you start to try and mess with that a little bit. That can be hard to unlearn. I think with Brendan, he's a guy that, like I said, has been through that before, and I think would be, and not that EJ didn't put the work in, he absolutely did, but, would be willing to also do that, where you might have some other curlers who go, okay, I'll come in mid-season, but I'm not about to overhaul my whole program,
And that's the other thing about Casey, is he's been on the bench for a couple of years.
Yeah.
We had a miraculous run 2 years ago in the provincials, coming 5th place at the PEI Tankard. But other than that, he hasn't been moving. But I'm going to turn the tables a little bit. What about EJ? Where does EJ go?
Oh man, it's hard not to look where his brother is and see maybe a fit there. Again, it's hard because that would also involve the firing of a player. Colton Lott, Matt Dunstone, very close. I think Colton is one of the best seconds in Canada. I don't know if that to me, that's pretty much a lateral move. EJ has more experience than Colton has, maybe won a little bit more, but as far as the shot making goes, I think Colton's right up there with anybody. EJ's probably a better sweeper than Colton at this point, but Colton's still a great sweeper. That's taking nothing away from him. So I don't know. Like after that, is Team Kooi going, geez, maybe if we had just waited a couple more days, we could have had EJ Harnden and we wouldn't have had to upset the apple cart in Alberta. I don't know. What are you thinking about that? I mean, I think we both can probably agree EJ is going to want to get back in the mix.
My thoughts right now is someone's going to be a 5-person team. I don't know. Well, and not to say that EJ wouldn't jump in the main lineup and someone move back to 5th, but I just can't see somebody cutting somebody for EJ. I could see them inviting him to join the team and then see where he lands in the lineup.
That could make sense from a Dunstone perspective too, right? I think you've got obviously BJ Neufeld, one of the best to do it. You've got Ryan and EJ are brothers. Colton's great. You don't have to but you don't have to stress the Matt and Colton friendship. I think that's not a bad shout for sure. Yeah.
McEwen's team, they're kind of heating up. EJ would bring a lot to them. You never know.
There's options.
Brad Jacobs.
Just saying. Maybe. I mean, they feel pretty locked to me. That feels. Yeah. I was texting with Mike McEwen. Actually, I just sent him a text and I said, "Oh, you must feel among the safest teams just with how good their run has been." And I'm sure Jacobs feels the same. That to me, those are two teams where the lineups feel the most safe or the most locked in. But but
I would have said the same about Gushue.
Yeah, well,
really, that's if you had asked me what's the one dialed in team, I would have said Brad Gushue. So
Pretty wild, unbelievable stuff. We're going to get to the main Broom Brothers episode now, but thanks to our producer, Steven, for hopping on this call. Thanks to you for putting up with my maybe less than stellar audio here, but we had to get this emergency insert done into the pod. Now here is the regular episode of the Broom Brothers.
And I'll change it on my Creed shirt.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Broom Brothers, the official podcast of the curling group and the Grand Slam of Curling. I am John, and with me is the other Broom Brother, Robbie Doherty.
Good to be here, John. Haven't seen you in 48 hours. How you been?
Oh man, I miss you. I miss you. You know, we got to hang out quite a bit in Charlottetown. Had a great time at the Slam there. And we had a nice lunch a couple days ago.
We did.
We're basically best friends now.
How's your heart rate? Has it come down since being in our fast-paced, stressful, very dramatic city of Charlottetown?
That was the first thing my wife said, you know, how was Charlottetown? And I said, it was hard not to get caught up in the hustle and bustle. But I was able to decompress, got out after I had lunch with you, took your recommendation, drove out to Stanhope, went to the really nice beach there, very peaceful. And I just kind of sat there. I soaked in the Atlantic Ocean air, and I thought, wow, finally a chance to slow down and get away from these crazy islanders. So.
And then I probably texted you.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, no, it was great. I was going to ask you, we'll obviously get into the Hearing Life Tour Challenge. It's now in the books, first slam of the year in Charlottetown, PEI. But let's just talk about the Charlottetown of it all. You know, you're the hometown son. I know you had a very, very busy week with the Grand Slam of Karaoke, obviously doing your in-arena MC stuff, your Sportsnet stuff, and then also catering to all the folks in town. From your perspective, how did it go? Because I felt like from an outsider perspective, it really did seem like it was, as you described, the community really embracing the event. Most of the draws were sold out. It was a really fun time. But how did it kind of feel to you as a Charlottetowner?
It felt amazing. I think the big thing that stood out to me, or the big question that I had going into it, is Islanders are known to be very supportive of any event that comes, and they're also known to be big sports fans. But what I was sort of scared about is it's early October, and you've been here. Like PEI, we have beautiful falls, and me included, like we're all still in golf mode here. Like the beaches are still open. It's still nice. It's almost 20 degrees out right now. So my big fear was, would curling work this early in the year? I know for a fact it would, in the winter, but no, Islanders came out and they supported it. There was definitely a buzz in the city when the event got going, and I knew that was going to happen. But everywhere I've been since, people have just been raving about it, just saying what a great time they had. Because we've never had a Grand Slam before. We've had the Scotties, I think, 3 times over the last 40 years, maybe. So they've seen that side of the game, but they've never seen the Grand Slam. And it's totally different. You can't compare a Grand Slam event to a Season of Champions event. They just have a different feel. They've got different teams. It's just different. And
well, you got to think too, sorry to interrupt you, but you got to think like for Charlottetown, just even having the international curlers there, felt kind of, felt cool. And just having the Korean teams and the Japanese teams and the Swedish teams, etc. You could feel that they were embracing the kind of international aspect of it all.
Yeah. And the men's. See, we've had the Scotties 3 times, but we never had the Briar, and we probably never will unless we get a new arena. We just don't have a big enough arena for it. So I think it was a cool chance for Charlottonians, but all Islanders, to see their favorite men's players up close. Not saying that they weren't.
And now wait, Robbie, and who would be their favorite player? I was really surprised to find out they love Brad Gushue. That seemed very weird to me. A guy from the Maritimes as well, who's very beloved.
Atlantic Canada.
Sorry. I guess because Newfoundland's not the Maritimes.
They're not. They're Atlantic Canada.
Okay, see, now I'm gonna get hate mail for that.
No, they're diehard Gushue fans, but in here you don't even have to say Gushue. It's just Brad. They love Brad. Who are you cheering for? Brad.
And they're not talking about Brad Jacobs, and that's no slight to Brad Jacobs, but you know which Brad they mean.
Brett Gallant does play with Brad Jacobs now.
That's true.
So it's a legitimate thought. You're not wrong on that. No, but obviously Gushue was he was the Hulk Hogan here this week. Anywhere he went, he was just bombarded with fans. But that's a trait of Islanders. They're so excited and they're proud to show off what we have. I think I said this to you at lunch the other day, but we're 40,000. It's not a big city. I don't even know if it technically would be truly considered a city. I mean, it is, but for a city of our size with our population, we're blessed to have a lot of great things around, great food, a lot of entertainment, a lot of festivals, a lot of culture, stuff like that. And we're very proud of it. And whenever we get to show it off to the world and show what we have in the capital city of Prince Edward Island, it's a big opportunity for us. And I don't think it could have went any better. And I think the players had a great time. They were raving about the food. Some of my colleagues were raving about going golfing and going to the racetrack and lots of things like that. I don't think it could have went better.
Colleague that was raving about that.
Exactly.
It was great. I mean, it was my first Charlottetown. Prince Edward Island was the last province to cross off my list in terms of visiting. I've been to all the other ones, and it was great. And you could really tell, even from an outside perspective, that the town was excited and the fans were really excited. And beautiful place. Like you said, weather was phenomenal. Fall is beautiful. Definitely heard from, the curlers that I was hanging out with throughout the week, how much they enjoyed it, enjoyed the hospitality, enjoyed the city. And it was great. I mean, let's get to the slams.
Yep.
Obviously we've got two sides of it to consider, the tier 1 and the tier 2. We'll start with the tier 1, and we are actually going to be speaking to Carrie Einarson later this episode, so make sure you tune in for that. But Carrie Einarson, the big winner on the tier 1 side, defeating the woman we thought maybe couldn't be defeated, Rachel Homan, who actually lost her first game of the season in the A side of the draw to Stefania Constantini, and then losing to Carrie Einarson. And I believe that was the first time in, I think, 35 games against Canadian opposition that Rachel Homan had lost. So pretty wild, but she does lose the final. Carrie Einarson wins. And I guess the obvious question, Robbie, is Carrie Einarson back?
I don't think she's back. I just don't think she ever really went anywhere. Sure, she wasn't getting the results that they were hoping for. So I guess technically maybe she was out of the spotlight a little bit, but that's a solid team. And the other thing is they haven't had their team. And I mean, coming into this event, they had an alternate playing, now a long-time alternate, in Kristen Karwacki, but also a spare in Don McEwen playing second. But I think Carrie just got back to her old ways. When the pressure became more, she dug deep and made a game of it. Obviously, it was kind of an unexpected steal against Homan in the final. I was laughing because I'm watching the broadcast and I have the commentators in my ear. And Carrie, after they were lying a few, she looked and said, "Oh, well, good force." And then all of a sudden that Rachel's hit over curled. She rolled too far and got to steal it too. So even the look on their faces was just like, what just happened? But I think it was a good example of Carrie. She's a 4-time back-to-back Scotties champion. She knows how to win. And she did a great job of keeping herself in the game against Rachel Homan, arguably the greatest women's curling team of all time, or at least coming off the greatest season of all time. Not an easy task to come back on a team like that. So to answer your question, yes, I think Carrie is back, but again, I don't really think she went that far.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, obviously, when we talk about being back, it's a short amount of results we're talking about. We're talking about the Scotties, and then I think the stumble at the PointsBet, losing to Team McNutt, a junior team. We certainly wouldn't have expected that. I think if Carrie had gotten quote unquote upset by a team like Kayla Skurlik or Danielle Inglis or whatever, where yes, they're ranked higher than them, but that's a team that's competing on tour and in contention for the Scotties, I think people wouldn't have said as much. But when you're losing to a young team, and we're going to hear from Carrie later, like obviously Team McNutt played phenomenal in that game. We're not taking anything away from them, but the betting odds before the game would have reflected, what the thought was going into that. So yeah, I think you're right. It's not so much that they necessarily left, but obviously going through the whole Brianne Harris situation, Shannon Burchard is injured. It's been a lot to take in. And it was, I think one thing I noticed this week, being in the building at the Slams, getting to hang out with Carrie and her team on Thursday, is it just felt a little easier out there. It felt like they had kind of not necessarily put everything in the rear view mirror, but they felt looser and they felt less burdened by all the things that have been going on around them, to me. And, playing with their alternate Kristen Karwacki, playing with a spare in Dawn McEwen, and Dawn playing second, I don't think people coming into the Tour Challenge would have thought they're going to win. But they looked comfortable out there. They were playing really well. Kerri and Val were both playing very well.
Yep.
And it was just, nice to see them back on top. I think Canadian women's curling and women's curling in general is better when Carrie Einarson is around.
Oh, absolutely. And it looked like they were having fun.
Yeah.
Kerri looked like she was truly enjoying herself out there, and life gave them lemons and they were making some lemonade on the ice. So good on them.
No question. Now over on the men's side, Bruce Mouat, dominant winners on the men's side. I think one stat, they went undefeated throughout the field. One stat that really stuck out to me is they defeated their 6 opponents by a combined score of 42-16.
Wow.
Which you just don't see that at a slam.
No.
You very rarely see that at a slam. Obviously, teams get hot and have really good weeks at slams, and we see teams go undefeated through slams. That's not crazy, but Bruce he looked on a different level this week. Didn't look like anyone could get close to him. I mean, that's evidenced in the final. He's playing Brad Gushue, number 4 in the world. And obviously we know everything that Brad brings. And I mean, it was just, it was a shellacking. I mean, they beat them 10-3. It didn't look close. What did you make of Bruce Mouat's week?
Well, and to add to that, he didn't just beat Brad Gushue by that score, but he beat him in a final by that score.
Yeah.
Brad dials in better than I think anybody when the lights are on, the bright lights are shining, when it's all on the line. And it was just the word that I use for Mouat all week is dominance. They just dominated. They got out there, just had this look in their eye, like, you're on my ice. I'm going to call the shots here, which he did. And he made them. He just dummied everybody. That team is so good. And it's funny, like we talked about it being in my hometown, and obviously Gushue is a huge crowd favorite around here, like he is everywhere, but maybe a little bit more in Atlantic Canada. And I remember before the game, someone was asking me, who do you think's going to win? But they kind of worded it as, do you think Mouat can beat Gushue? And I just said, Bruce Mouat is a very, very, very strong curling team. And they looked at me like I had 3 heads. Like, you think anyone can beat our Brad?
Number 1 in the world, coming into the event. And it was funny because coming into the Tour Challenge, Bruce was 0.2 points ahead of Joelle Retornaz. But then Joelle had one of those events drop from counting during the event. So now Brad is actually ranked 2nd in the world, but he was ranked 4th coming into the Tour Challenge behind Yannick Schwaller and Joelle Retornaz. But now Brad is 2nd. So you're right. Like, it's, they're right there, but Bruce is dominantly in the lead. Dominantly, I don't think is a word, but that doesn't matter. Bruce has
an Islander, man.
Yeah, exactly. Bruce has 468 ranking points. And Brad Gushue has 393. So they're they're more than 70 points clear, 75 points clear. And year to date, Bruce is on top with 172.5. Wow. Yannick Schwaller behind with 143.5. So, it is funny to think of maybe the more casual curling fan or just the Brad Gushue fan that thinks that, they're unassailable. Bruce Mouat has been the team to beat this year. That was their 3rd win of the season. And they look just in control all week. We were saying in the broadcast booth, just even their first game against Cameron Bryce, and that's them playing the lowest seeded team in the field. Yeah. You could just tell they were dialed in right from the start.
Yeah, they were. And I think they looked like they knew it. They looked like they just knew when they walked on the ice, they're going to be really tough to beat, and they didn't look back. I want to say too, Gushue, I think, had a pretty good event as well. Like, obviously they didn't get the result they wanted to, but I mean, they don't even have curling ice at their home club. Like, Brad, it's not like Brad can just go practice. And to have, I know they played a couple of events before this, but still, if you're not getting those regular reps in, and Brad is known to be a player who practices a lot. And so if he can't get to his normal game day routine, still coming out and getting to the final and grinding his way to the final, it's not like he went out.
They took the C road.
Exactly. And they had a tough draw. I think they had 2 or 3 morning draws in a row.
Yeah, they played 3 games on Saturday. They had to play the C qualifier and then the quarterfinal and the semifinal on Saturday. And I was saying that to Brent Lang, who I was commentating this weekend. I said, when's the last time Brad's even played 3 games in a day? It was probably, maybe in the finals of like a tour event, but now a lot of tour events are doing the quarterfinals on a separate day from the semis and finals. So you don't have that 3-game day.
Yep.
So yeah, Brad doesn't play 3 games in a day too often anymore. That's for sure.
No. So good on him. I mean, obviously they wanted to win and that didn't happen, but not a bad way to start your slam season. When you literally can't go to the curling club and practice.
Yeah, no question.
That's why he's Brad Gushue.
Yeah, absolutely. The tier 2 was really fun to watch. We know it's a big event for all of those teams. If you win, you get a free berth into the WFG Masters. Although that's changed for our women's winners, and we'll get to that in a second. But yeah, it was cool to see. Obviously, it's a big step. You not only do you get into that slam, but it's all expenses paid. So you get your travel covered, you get your entry fee covered, and you officially break into that tier 1 side. We'll start with the men. Rylan Kleider, who was sort of I didn't officially pick them on the last podcast, but I did say they were a team to watch out for. They defeat Magnus Ramsfjell in the men's final. What did you make of Kleider's week? Obviously, we don't see a ton of the tier 2 because it's played on a different arena than the one we're covering games in. But what did you make of that final? What do you make of Team Kleider in general?
I think they're going to be a force to be reckoned with really soon, sooner than later. They're one of those teams that kind of flew under the radar in juniors. They sort of come up in that Tyler Tardy era when he was winning everything. Maybe had a couple of years after that without Tardy, but seeing the way they work, they look like they work much beyond their age. They're very mature. They call a very mature game, if that makes sense, but they're very skilled. They're, they think in inches, not feet sort of thing. And at their age, that's very impressive. I had a good chat with Matt Hall. I think it was Thursday night. Just at Outbreak Girl. And we just had a quick chat, and he was just saying he thought the team was playing well and they were definitely going to be in the running and obviously the draw to win it. Like that's certainly not easy. They played in a separate arena all week. They might have
gone to the tier 1 rink for the final. It's tough.
In Atlantic Canada with a crowd in October when it's warm out. Like there's a lot of humidity here anyway, and there's obviously a lot of frost out there. He didn't think twice about it. He put the broom down, he hit it and made it perfectly for the win. No big deal. Just to get into a slam, all expenses paid. No pressure.
It was, Brent and I were talking about that in the booth. Like we thought of all, so Rylan did, you're right. Immediately the draw was the shot he wanted to play. And then they called a timeout and they discussed the options. Brent and I both thought in the booth, the draw was maybe the hardest option. He had a triple at the top of the house that looked makeable. He could have hit and rolled in off his own, or he could have drawn around 3 Ramsfjell stones in the top of the house. He would have had to come wide out into that frost like you were talking about. And with the way where the Ramsfjell stones were, you probably couldn't get it above the tee line. You almost had to be back 4 to get it to grind in there, and it had to stop in the 4-foot. And we just kind of thought, oh boy, and I know that the skips these days, you got to be able to make draws. That's how you win games. You can't just be a great hitter anymore and rely on making the odd draw. But we just thought, geez, that's the hardest option for sure. And like you said, called and made. He wasn't afraid to make it. And I think too, it goes to show how good the sweepers are. I was talking to another curler, a top-ranked curler the other day about Trevor Johnson and Joshua Mattern. And, Josh, career 3rd, which obviously you sweep a little bit at 3rd, but you're not sweeping skip stones. He's only been doing that since they brought Matt Hall on last year. I was talking to another curler about it, and they were kind of saying and agreeing with me, as far as a tandem goes, they're probably a top 5 tandem on tour. Trevor Johnson is a specimen, doesn't get fatigued, super strong. I think Josh is also underrated, has power. They're both good judges. It was really fun to watch them, and it was fun to probably realize that that's why Rylan wanted to play the draw, is because he knows that he has the horses to make that kind of shot.
Yeah, he didn't look intimidated in the least. And props to Magnus on his last shot.
Oh my God.
His shooter stopped in the perfect spot. because I was in the corner watching on the screen. I just said, "Oh boy, that's in a good spot." So,
oh, totally,
you know
it was in a great spot, and he made that shot in 8 as well. He made the angle run back, takeout, and push to score 2. He was probably, maybe a couple feet heavier from making it for 3. I think it'll be in contention for shot of the week.
Oh, absolutely.
No question. It was just a really well played game. It was great to see both of them there. Rylan has actually squeezed himself into the 16th spot with that win as well. So I think we will be seeing them in Nisku. But yeah, that was a great game to watch. And on the women's side, I think one thing that has happened, the tier 2 has been about getting these teams that would have a hard time getting into the slams. And I think sometimes it hasn't always accomplished that goal, because really the difference between 17th in the world and 16th in the world is very slim. So often what happens is the teams that win the tier 2 are teams that have been in the tier 1 for a long time and have just maybe fallen out, and they're trying to win their way back in. Like Magnus Romsdale is a good example of that. I think he's played in 7 slams before. Last year for the women, Team Kim, Olympic silver medalists, won the tier 2. It's like they were going to get back to the tier 1 anyway. So I think one thing that was amazing about the women's side of the tier 2 this time is you have a team in Christina Black that wins and genuinely would not have gotten into a tier 1 slam without this victory. They were ranked 33 in the world coming into the final game. They were almost 100 points out of 16th place. They had to win that game against Sayaka Yoshimura, or they were not going to be in a slam this year. And they win it. And in their Atlantic Canada, their Maritimes, they're from Nova Scotia, in their Maritimes home kind of area. I mean, what a story.
Oh, absolutely. And the celebration said it all. They looked like they literally accomplished one of their lifetime dreams when they won. It was great. I've known those ladies for a long, long time now, and they actually had their 5th playing with them as well. Jen Baxter is out of the lineup for the weekend. But I think Christina Black is one of the most underrated Canadian curlers out there. She is. Remember what I said about Tyler Smith last week and how he's just fearless? Yeah. Christina is like that too. I really got to know Christina at the 2013 Canadian Mixed. She was playing 3rd there. And after we played Nova Scotia, I just said, she's good. Like any curler can go out there, get hot, have a really good game. Once upon a time. And then you go back, reality sets in. But she's not one of those people. She is just really good. She'll take anything on. Her plans are well thought out before she starts an end. She knows how to set it up for herself to make what she wants to make, and finishes, follows through with it a lot of the time. 33. I'm surprised they're not a little higher than that. They're certainly capable of being a little higher than that.
They
I know
geography, enough, I think, is really
well, exactly. And geography's not our friend here in the Maritimes. Sure. It's a long way to go for, I apologize to our European audience and all the international teams that were complaining that. But
respectively, considering what the other Canadian teams have to do, yes, it's a lot more work. Yeah, totally.
And you know what? Good on them. And it was good to see, she was 33 in the tier 2, and she looked like she was out there to win, and she did. So all the best to them. I had a little whisper to them, just a congratulatory message after. They were pretty excited. So it's good to see. Be good to see them in St. John's, I'm hearing, John.
Yes. So they obviously the initial plan was that the invite was for the WFG Masters in Guelph in January, but that conflicts with their Nova Scotia Scotties. So they asked permission for the slams to move their berth to St. John's and the Coyote National, and that was accepted. So we'll see them in St. John's, and I love that for them, right? It's not only that they're getting into the slam, but they're getting into one in Atlantic Canada. We know St. John's is almost sold out already. It's going to be bumping in the Mary Brown Center, so they're going to be a hometown quote unquote hometown favorite there in St. John's. And it's going to be fantastic to see them there.
And there's a difference between bumping and St. John's bumping. And it's going to be St. John's bumping. I cannot wait for that.
Me neither. It's going to be great.
Yep. It really will. So more big news in curling, John. Big team changes. Jacques Gauthier got the heave-ho from Team Kooi this week, made some headlines. Surprised, not surprised? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, so I think this is interesting. As curling's maybe quote unquote insider XOXO gossip curl, as it were. Obviously this news was pretty surprising. Came down 2 weeks ago, just before the points bet, just after Okotoks, where Team Kooi had missed the playoffs, and I think a lot of people were, confused about the timing. Why get 2 events into the season and decide to make the change. And so this is kind of my best guess as to how it all kind of shook down. So obviously, coming out of last season, Team Kooi, disappointing season, right? World rankings wise, didn't really have the results they were hoping for. They had a nice win in Lloydminster, but other than that, wasn't an amazing season. Then obviously capped off by the Brier that was a huge disappointment for them. Really not a good result. And I think a lot of us were expecting changes just based on that, and not necessarily Jacques, just it seemed like a team that maybe needed to change. And I think what happened was this offseason, the balance was obviously upset when Brendan Bottcher was released from his duties with his team, and they brought on Brad Jacobs. I think if Team Kooi had gone into the offseason and Brendan Bottcher was still on his team, maybe they would have looked at options for replacing Jacques or just changing the lineup in general. But I think when that happened, a lot of people were thinking, well, is Brendan Bottcher going to end up taking over Team Kooi? Is Kevin Koe then going to move to take over Reed Carruthers' team? Is Reed involved in this somehow? Like, I do think all of those options were on the table. Like, I think those teams were discussing them. I know for sure that Brendan Bottcher was involved in various discussions in the off season with those teams, and so I think they got so wrapped up in that when Brendan Bottcher finally decided that he wasn't going to play 4-player this year and he was going to coach Team Homan and play mixed doubles with Rachel, I think that just kind of almost forced Team Kooi into a holding pattern where they went, oh, shoot, okay, we kind of maybe thought we were going to get Brendan Bottcher, get the fallout from Team Carruthers or whatever would happen. Then it didn't happen. And that announcement came pretty late also. Brendan Bottcher didn't really confirm that until August. So I think they just said, well, I guess we're kind of stuck, we're kind of, it didn't work out, and now we're getting a little too late to change things. So let's just go into this season hoping for the best. And, I think they made the playoffs at the Saville Shootout. They missed the playoffs in Okotoks. I don't think that's enough necessarily to boot. So I think something must have happened. I don't know what, but there must have been something there where they just decided they couldn't go on any longer, because cutting someone 2 events into the season doesn't really make sense. So something must have happened there where they decided to move on from Jacques. But yeah, it was obviously very surprising. I think most people who have watched Jacques over the years, he's only really ever played back end. I think he's more of a back end player, very talented third, talented skip. He skipped at the Brier, won BC a couple of years ago. We know he's going to land on his feet. And I think if he lands on his feet, it's going to be in a back end position, but yeah, certainly surprising, and surprising that we now have his replacement as well.
Yeah, Aaron Sluchinski.
Yeah, it's kind of, that was also surprising. I mean, I think you don't generally see a skip leave their team. Again, they're like 3 events or 4 events into their season. You don't generally see a skip leave their team like that, and I think a lot of people, when the news came out about Team Kooi, thought maybe it is going to be Brendan Bottcher. Well, look, if it was going to be Brendan Bottcher, that would have happened in the offseason. A lot of people thought Brad Thiessen. I think Brad Thiessen has already been there, done that with Team Kooi. He wasn't going to go back. I know people talked about Kirk Myers. I would imagine Kirk would have gotten a phone call, but he's really dialed in with mixed doubles with Laura. We know the mixed doubles trials are coming up at the end of December. I just think he didn't have the time to dedicate, and maybe he didn't want it either, but I think he wouldn't have had the time to dedicate it. So I was always going into this thinking like, they're going to poach. They're going to have to poach, because the options that are on the bench, John Morris maybe too could have been a potential option, but I think he's pretty happy not playing. And so, yeah, I was just like, this is, they're going to have to poach. Where are they going to poach from? And, I think there are some names there that would have made sense. Aaron Sluchinski is not one I would have thought of, moving from skip to the second position, ditching his whole team. very surprising, very cutthroat, I will say, Robbie.
I agree, but
curling's getting cutthroat out there.
I agree, but for years we talked about how we wanted the Olympics or curling to be a big part of the Olympics, and here it is, and that's just what comes with the Olympics. It's do or die. You got to do everything you take or anything it takes to get there if that's your team goal. I felt bad for Jacques. Jacques, I really got to know him better last season. I've heard nothing but great things about him before that, but last year was the year I sort of really met him, chatted to him a few times. I interviewed him once on the broadcast, and we just kind of kept texting, and he's a good guy. He's a really fun guy to talk to. And so I was kind of startled because I didn't think that he would be any kind of a problem on a team just based on the personality I met. Maybe it was just a natural personality thing. That team is very unusual. They're kind of, it seems like they're always four different personalities. Like Kevin is very quiet. They're all sort of quiet, but just in different ways, if that makes sense.
They didn't get any louder swapping Jacques for Aaron Sluchinski.
No. No. But at the same time, it's a business now, and it's about the Olympics, and you do what you have to do. And if it takes two events into the season, that's kind of what every player is signing up for. It's a possibility, and it just wasn't working for them, and they had to make the decision. I do think Aaron was a good pickup. I was hanging around Kirk most of the week last week in Charlottetown. He was here watching the Slam, and he told me he has no interest in 4-person curling. So that kind of put that idea out of my mind. Another name that's I thought like a maybe was Adam Casey.
Yep, sure.
Because he's certain, Casey's he's a very good player, and he's a heck of a sweeper, and he would probably move into that second role pretty naturally. I would like to think he'd tell me if he did. But but anyway, but it came out, it was Sluchinski. It's pretty strategic if you think about it.
Yep.
You're breaking up your competition.
You break up your competition. Yeah. And speaking of that competition, I've seen a lot of people online saying, oh, well, maybe Jacques Gauthier will slot in for Aaron Sluchinski, and, we'll look at an Alberta revenge tour for Jacques Gauthier and the rest of Sluchinski's team. The only issue with that is Jacques and Kyle Deering would both be imports. They both live in Winnipeg. So I don't know how they would make that work, if they are, and I don't know if they're talking or anything. I mean, the thing that it does leave open to possibility too is maybe Jacques and Kyle play out of Manitoba together. Because they both live in Winnipeg. Maybe there's some front end options there kicking around. I don't know. And if that happens, no idea what will happen to Jeremy Hardy and Dylan Webster. Is it too late for them to squeeze onto a team somewhere? Jeremy used to skip in juniors, so maybe they try to put something together with Jeremy skipping. I have no idea. This might cause other dominoes to fall, but yeah, it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see what happens. I don't know that Gauthier could just slide onto that Sluchinski rink. But if they find a way to make that work, maybe one of them can move to Alberta for the next 6 months or something. I don't know, but yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting to keep an eye on. I know that obviously those 3 players from Sluchinski will be looking to stay active in the game, and I do believe that Jacques would welcome being on a team this year. I don't think he's looking at it like, oh, I'm going to take the rest of the year off. So yeah, we'll see what happens.
Don't you think it's sort of silly that in 2024, like literally 2 minutes after I say it's business, it's about the Olympics, Jacques just got cut from a team. He's a free agent, and he can't go pick up that other team.
Yeah.
Because they don't live in the same province. When the Olympics is the obvious big goal.
Oh,
I know this
especially
topic
with that
has never
Alberta
been...
final. Could you imagine Alberta final Gauthier versus Kooi? It'd be the most anticipated game since the Bottcher Grattan game at the Briar a few years ago.
But Jacques is an amazing curler in his mid-20s.
Yeah.
And like, this is potentially threatening his future in the sport. If he can't find the team, if he can't find a team capable of doing what he wants to do, which is obviously huge goals, he's probably not going to want to kick around. Like, do you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, no, I know what you're saying for sure. And I think it's definitely something that's Canadians are going to keep both looking at changing and complaining about changing. So
how long are we going to keep looking? We've been looking at this now for a while. What are we looking at? Like
with Dave Murdoch in there, I have a feeling like after 2026, we may be looking harder. The microscope we're looking at it with may be a little bit more powerful than it was in past years. Okay, we got to get to the interview with Kerri Einarson, but let's just very, very quickly talk about the PointsBet Invitational. Mike McEwen, Rachel Homan picking up the $50,000 checks. What did you think of the PointsBet, the single elimination format? Maybe we can talk about that too. Do you like the PointsBet? We're 3 years in. We haven't really seen one be well attended. Kind of seems like fans don't love the format. Talk about the winners. Talk about where you're at with the PointsBet. Give me your quick rundown of the PointsBet Invitational.
I love it. I love it. As a fan, I enjoy watching the PointsBet because every game is sudden death. There's a little bit of extra intensity, perhaps. I don't know if that's the right word, but every time they're on the ice, both teams know that if they lose, it's done for them. And that's a lot of pressure. It just adds to the intensity. I think that event is struggling with timing. As I mentioned about the Charlottetown Slam in October, well, it's even earlier. I think they were saying it was extremely nice outside in Calgary. A lot of that
it was very nice in Calgary. Yes.
Oh, yeah, you live in Calgary. Right?
I live in Calgary. It was it was very nice.
Yeah, like I'm just not sure if people are going to want to drive out of the city because it's not exactly right downtown Winsport. I'm not sure they're going to want to drive that far. Now, PEI, my definition of far drive is different than yours, I'm sure, but I don't think they want to go sit in a rink that time of year. I think there's just a lot of things that are working against them. But personally, as a curling fan, I really enjoy it. I enjoy it, especially when it comes down to the playoffs and money's on the line. And if it gets to a draw to the button, like I'm not trying to talk about what's great for the sport and what's great to build on, but it's fun TV.
Yeah, I think so too. I think it's fun TV. I'm curious to see where it goes. I think that, pardon me, with Nick Sulsky out as the CEO of PointsBet, I think he was pretty instrumental in bringing that event and that deal to Curling Canada. They've got one more year left on that deal. So I'll be curious to see if the sort of flagging it's in Calgary again next year at the Winsport Arena. Beautiful venue. It's where the Scotties was this year as well. But I'll be curious to see if the attendance and the overall kind of feel around the event leads to a change. I know there has been curlers and fans who would like to see the Continental Cup back. I think people think of the PointsBet existing because the Continental Cup stopped. I don't think that's true. I think the Canada Cup is the one that was sacrificed to make way for the PointsBet, in my opinion. But yeah, I think with how good the European and the world teams are getting now, I think there might be more of an appetite for a Continental Cup style event, especially when you haven't done one in a few years. So we'll be curious to see where it goes next year. But yeah, I don't mind the format. I don't think I don't feel one way or the other. I think it's fine. I think you're right. It does create some dramatic moments, but I also think that the spot in the calendar, the lack of attendance at the events is definitely something to keep an eye on. It was nice to see Mike McEwen win, though. Beating Brad on the way to winning that, getting maybe a little bit of revenge for the Brier final. Was nice to see that, and Rachel Homan, her dominant self there for sure.
Oh, exactly. And it's fun to see new teams as well,
for sure.
Like getting the club champions in there and giving them that experience just to get a little something for their big win, to get invited to an event like that, and also the university winners, the college champions. There's a lot of things going for that event. It's really cool for those teams to maybe experience something that they never would. Like, I think the club champs, did they play Gushue first draw?
Yes. Yeah.
I believe so. So, when I'm a club curler, I don't, nor do I want to, but I don't plan on playing Brad Gushue anytime soon.
I don't think Brad's lining up to spend his time playing me. That's for sure. Anyway, that's all the news in curling. And now it's time to get to our interview with the Hearing Life Tour Challenge Tier 1 champion, Kerri Einarson. We had a great chat. Don't go anywhere.
Let's do it.
All right, Kerri Einarson, winner of the Grand Slam, the Hearing Life Tour Challenge. It's time for the top 4. I just want you to give me a quick answer to these 4 questions. Don't think about it. First thing that comes to your mind. You ready?
Okay.
All right, here we go. One curler that you want to play with that you haven't.
I would say Mike McEwen.
Oh, that's a good one.
Ooh, the
coach.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would love a mixed doubles, McEwen Einarson team. That'd be great. Kick his wife out of there and let's go.
No.
If you know that both of the sets of rocks are great, you love the rocks no matter what color are you picking?
Yellow.
Me too.
Mustard.
If they in Gimli, if they named a sandwich after you, what would be on it?
There would be chicken, lettuce, cucumbers, pickles, habanero cheese, and what else? Salt and pepper.
Love it. How would your bitterest rival describe you?
I don't know. I feel like I'm pretty nice.
It's like, I don't know. She beats me a lot, but she's also really nice.
I think so. I don't know.
Yeah, okay.
We like you,
We'll
Kerri.
have to ask them.
I will. I'll get off this call and I will call them immediately. I think I can probably guess who it is. Now, Kerri, you did win. You just won the Hearing Life Tour Challenge, as I said off the top. Do you feel like you have your mojo back a little bit? What was going well this weekend? You're back on top.
Yeah, it definitely felt good. Going into this season was a little, only having 50% of our team it's tough. And so to pull up this win with an alternate and a spare is pretty amazing. So my team played unreal all week, right from start to finish, and Val played really well, and I also got some confidence back. And from our last 2 events, we struggled a little bit and just trying to find our groove, and I think we found it.
Can I jump in there for a
week.
second? You mentioned you had a spare and your alternate. I wanted to ask about the alternate. What kind of, or how important was it for your team having Kristen in the lineup, but also having her for so many years as your alternate? Like, looking back, I bet you couldn't have predicted this situation, obviously, but how much of an asset is it now having Kristen, who has been sort of your near full-time alternate for a lot of years?
Yeah, it was pretty easy to adjust to since we've known her for many years. I actually curled with her before I set this team together, so I knew exactly what to expect with Kristen. She's so easygoing, and she'll just kind of do what you say, and do anything for the team.
Kristen's pretty hard to get along with, eh?
Yeah,
That's a good lead right there. Hey, she just does whatever I tell her. I like that about her. That's probably my favorite thing.
Hey,
but also,
that's how we get on
if you
teams.
ask her opinion, she'll give it to you. So she's super sweet on and off the ice, and we really enjoy having her.
Maybe that's why you and I got kicked off so many teams, Robbie. Hey, as we we didn't do what the skip was telling us. Maybe we should have been more agreeable the whole time.
Maybe you should have practiced more.
Well, that's definitely for sure. Was there, Kerri, you talked a little bit about, struggling to start the season, didn't have obviously a great tournament at the PointsBet, the Savile shootout, maybe didn't go the way you wanted either. And obviously going back into last year too, 4 times Scotties on the go, and then, don't really make it as far as you wanted to there. Was there a moment with all the things going on and everything that you kind of worried that maybe it wasn't going to come back?
Well, definitely after last season, I was pretty bummed after what had happened, and it was just totally unfortunate and sucked for everyone. And then come summer, I had a really great summer, and then I was excited to get back ready to train, and then all of a sudden Shannon's knee injury came about, and I was like, oh my God, when I thought things couldn't get any worse. They did. And yeah, that really sucked, and it was unfortunate, but we going into that event, we're playing with risk to that too, right? Like judging and sweeping back and forth. And it was extremely difficult for everyone, and we qualified, which was great. But yeah, and then going into PointsBet, have another different player playing with us, and Laura's an awesome. It's one and done game. So I'm sure if we had a couple more games under our belt, it would have been a little different. But yeah, we just couldn't get anything going that game, and the team that we played against were unreal. Like, they didn't miss. Dealt with that, left that behind, and then we were excited to go and play in the Slam and have Dawn come on board. I've played with Dawn out there, and she's also like Kristen, and just like sits back, takes it all in, and that we just kind of started flowing and vibing. And we lost the first game. It was a tight one. We controlled the whole thing. We just had, they weren't easy shots. So we just kind of regrouped, and I just said to the girls, I was like, I gotta start having fun with this game again, because I proved that we can still do this, right? Given everything and all the adversity that we are going through, that we could still do this. And Val and I enjoy the game, make some curling shots, and see what happens. And we got some breaks along the way. Yeah, it's definitely just kind of kept flowing. The love of the team.
Comment, Dawn, you mentioned she's very easygoing and easy to play with.
Yeah.
Dawn is also very low-key funny. Did not realize that until the last couple of years, and I got to know her a bit more. She's hilarious, so she would be fun to have on the team. And then my question, you said you know, talking about getting your mojo back, you went out in the first round of the PointsBet, boom, the next weekend, here you are, you win a slam, but not just win a Grand Slam, you beat Rachel Homan in the final. Literally on our last episode, we asked the question legitimately, is she ever going to lose again? They've been so dominant the last couple of years. What did that feel like to not only win the slam, but beat the #1 team in the world right now, and who's obviously full of confidence and on a roll?
Yeah, like, they have been amazing the last year and a bit. So I knew that we were going to have to go into this game and just have fun with it and really take advantage of the breaks. So, which we did. And it looked like it wasn't going to go our way. When I rolled out in 3, I was like, oh my God, Kerri, you can't do that. I was ready to jump off a bridge. I was like, oh, I want that one back.
Well, you're in the right province for that.
Cost a lot of ocean around that you could have found.
It'll cost you $52, but
I just said to the girls, let's stick with it. We gave up a deuce back, and I was like, oh, okay, that's fine. Let's just score and then see what happens. And so we scored in 5, and then in 6, it wasn't looking our way, but we got 2 breaks from Rachel. So we took advantage of those and kept on it. And then in 7, I was like, oh my God, are we going to give up 5 back? And after everyone just kept chapping off in that spot, Val made 2 great freezes, and I made a couple of hit and rolls, so and forced them. So that's what it kind of came down to, was just who's going to take advantage of those breaks, and we did.
Now, you last sort of, I guess, maybe serious question, and then we'll talk about stuff that doesn't matter. You on Sunday, your normal coach, Reed Carruthers, has been working with you for a long time, had to leave early, and you had Mike McEwen step in on the bench. What was that like? Because I think, there are teams we see a lot more now with the national program getting involved too, that sometimes you'll have a different coach for a game or two, or someone hopping on the bench. What does that look like for you? Because I'm sure curling fans were curious. They're watching the final. All of a sudden, Mike's out there for a timeout. They're so used to Reed. Is there like a process you go through with Mike before the game or a new coach? Or is it just kind of, you trust him, you know what he can do, and it kind of doesn't matter?
Yeah, we really missed having Reed out there. I felt bad. He felt bad for having to miss the final, but he had to catch a flight out. So Dawn had mentioned to us while we were in the change room, we're like, well, what about Mike? Mike will be here. He can sit in on our game. So I sat our text Reed and I said, how do you feel about that? He's like, oh yeah, Mike's one of my really good buddies. I'm totally good with that. And I was like, okay. So he asked Mike and he was so excited and he was like, yeah, of course. I would love to sit in. So Reed sat down with him the night before and kind of gave him a little bit of a lowdown and of what we'll need to win that final. So he's super easygoing. He's so fun to have out there. I'd come back and have little chats with him. And his timeouts, he said he was most nervous for them.
He told me that too. I had dinner with him on Sunday night after, and he was like, when she called a timeout, I was so nervous.
Yeah, even though I think I knew what to play, but I was like, let's bring Mike out. Let's see what he has to say. Put him on the spot here. And
he was pumped.
Yeah. So
he was super pumped.
Like, oh, I think play just that little hit and roll. And I was like, hey, that's exactly what we were thinking. So we were on the same page as him. And then when we called the timeout in the last end, he just said, nail that weight, Kerri. And that really stuck with me. And he's like, how did you like that? After the game, he asked, how did you like me saying that? I said, I love that. So I just focused on the weight. I knew the broom was in the right spot. I just needed to dial into that weight because I was tending to overthrow quite a few of my hits. So I really dialed into it. And when I let it go, I was like, oh no, was that too soft? Oh no! But it was perfect. The girls managed it great. And it was a great team shot. And yeah, it was nice to have him out there with Dawn. Dawn, she, even when he sat in on our pregame meeting, she just said, this is so weird.
It looked like pretty weight sensitive ice too.
Yes, it was
like the steel of two. And
yeah. So yeah, Rachel was throwing like normals and stuff with that same ice. And so when she put the broom down, I was like, ooh, this could be a little tight ice if she's only throwing like a bumper weight. And sure enough, it got time on it. It was like 11 and it just, it took off. So it's definitely very weight sensitive.
John, I just want to make one more comment about Coach Mike.
Please.
I interviewed Mike, I think in the fourth or fifth end of that final on the bench. And he was nervous. And we left and I said, good luck, Bombay. Coach Bombay. And he burst out laughing. And I like how John so eloquently put it, that he was out for dinner with Mike on Sunday night. Well, fast forward a few hours, I was one of the few remaining with Mike at the Old Dublin pub before they kindly told us they've been closed for an hour and 15 minutes. But he was telling me he was super pumped. He felt like part of the team. He felt like he won a Grand Slam. That was cool to see.
Yeah. No, it was pretty awesome. So we thank him for joining us for that one game.
I was going to say, I gotta get this deal.
Now. I
gotta get this deal. I want to coach in a final. One for maybe Kerri next slam. I'll be there. You need someone to fill in. I can come out. I mean, I have no pedigree really at all, but I'll look cool and I'll just and I will agree with you if that sounds like you kind of like that. If you want to order me around a little bit, no problem.
We can do that. We can fix you.
Nail that weight. I got to get Mike every time I go on the scale.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I don't nail the weight on there ever. That's for sure. Now, Kerri, I am a fellow bespectacled curler, and I noticed that sometimes you're wearing, is this an eye health thing? How do you decide before a game whether you're wearing glasses or not?
Well, a lot of people reach out to me. They're like, "You're better with your glasses on."
Oh, interesting. Okay.
I'm like, maybe you're right. But it's more so of like a superstitious thing, or like I don't necessarily need them. Like they definitely help.
You say as you squint into the camera right now.
I can still see the broom and stuff, but it definitely just makes it in like high def. So it's just how you can, like, yeah. So I just wear them. Like, we lost the first game, and I was like, okay, I'm rocking the glasses. So I put on the glasses. We didn't lose, so I had to keep.
Okay, I thought you were deciding between glasses and contacts. I didn't know you were deciding between seeing or not seeing. So that's
like, I could have contacts, but I don't like the touching my eye business. So
that's fair. That's fair.
Kerri, I have a question.
I'm not blind. I can actually see. It was funny because Kristen was telling me, she was like, oh, I'm finally got contacts. And I was like, oh, well, why? Did you need them? She's like, yeah, I couldn't see the broom. I was like, what?
That's like Ralph Wiggum level stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The doctor said, I guess.
Dogs are barking.
That's okay.
We'll edit that in post. So, Gimli, Manitoba, hometown of Carrie Einarson. What's the population of Gimli?
Oof. I don't know. It varies because summer it's like super busy, and in the winter it's quiet. So
I know all about that.
Yeah, I'd say I don't even know, to be honest.
It's smaller.
But it's small. Yeah.
So what is a Gimli?
What?
What? Where does the name Gimli come from?
Oh, it's an Icelandic community.
Oh.
It's Icelandic here, and we have the Viking statue.
Actually, I guess Einarson is an Icelandic last name. Yeah.
It is.
Einarson.
I didn't grow up in Gimli, though. I grew up in Klandaboy. It's probably about a half hour from here and about 10 minutes outside of Selkirk.
Wikipedia is telling me that the population of Gimli is 2,345.
Oh.
Okay. Probably, I was going to say like 5,000. So,
do you know all 2,300 of them?
Pretty close, yeah.
I love saying Gimli when I announce the teams. It's just got a cool ring to it.
It's a good sounding name.
Actually, I'm from Camp Morton. I live in Camp Morton, which is 5 minutes north of Gimli.
Like, is that your like that's an actual town as well, or it's just like a part of
your eyes, like you'll miss it. So like you gotta like keep your eyes open, or else you blink and it's gone. I have my own little friends of ours made a sign just outside of the Camp Morton Road, and it says "Home of Canadian Champion Carrie Einarson." So it's pretty
nice. You must be.
That's nice.
You must be like everywhere you go. You must get stopped.
Yep.
Like in Gimli. Yeah.
Every time. But I love it. I love it. You're only get this so often. So you take advantage while you can. And I love sitting down to chat with anyone, give them any type of, like, even if they ask me for curly advice, if they ask me any types of questions, I am always open to give time. And I love giving back to the sport. So.
Good.
Now, I think a lot of people over the years have, have gotten to know your daughters a little bit from seeing them on TV and being at a lot of your games. And for those who don't know, you have twin daughters, Khloe and Kamryn. And I was curious, were you ever nervous when you had twins that you were going to mix them up as kids? Like, is Khloe actually Kamryn and is Kamryn actually Khloe? You know what I mean?
I have actually thought about that. I'm like, oh God, did like in their little beds, like in the hospital, they were like this together. Like, did I put one in the right one? Did I?
It would have been hard.
It was hard. They were pretty identical too, but with Khloe, she had a bit of a neck issue when she was coming out, so she kind of was like this. So you could tell that was Khloe.
That's helpful, I guess. I mean, I feel bad that she had a sore neck, but
she had to go to physio when she was younger, and they had to help her with her neck issue. And yeah, it's all resolved now. And then Kamryn has a foot issue, so when she walks, her foot turns in.
Oh.
So yeah, so that was just from birth. When they pulled her out from her foot. So she.
Well, they might be hard to tell apart.
Into the birth part.
Yeah, tell us more about that. Actually,
give us the whole birth
story. Could you be specific about exactly how they were taken out of you?
Yeah.
Might be hard to tell apart, but it's not hard to tell who their mother is.
Yeah. We
Someone might have
definitely
mentioned.
look a lot alike. They're coming down the stairs right now, both of them.
Oh,
Uh-oh.
They had a half day today at school, so they're done school. Come say hi, girls.
yeah. Come say
Oh
hi.
yeah, come say hi. Oh,
I'm gonna guess Kamryn.
Yeah, you're right.
wow. Okay. Hi, Cameron. Hi,
This
Chloe.
one's Cameron. This one's Chloe.
Hi, Kamryn and Khloe.
Chloe and Cameron sat right in front of me during the Scotties quite a bit because I would sit in this one section and it was where they were sitting all the time. And it was fun to watch them watch you play because they get very nervous when you're playing. I don't know if you know that, but they get a little jumpy. They walk around a lot, you know. Yeah.
I know, it's crazy how like they're starting to get the strategy part of the game. And when I play mixed doubles, sometimes Kyle and I will play mixed doubles with them, and it'll be lefties versus righties because Cameron's a lefty and Chloe's a
and Kyle's
yes, Kyle's left-handed, and so like even like they're like, Mom, why don't you play this or play that? It's pretty amazing to see how they've caught on to it so fast.
Girls, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Other than a trophy and a large check, did Mom bring anything else home from PEI for you guys? Any treats or anything? Ooh, do share.
A sweater, popsicle,
From cows.
From cows?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
some candy, and a crock charm.
Oh, a croc
Well
charm. I'm a big croc guy. What croc charm did you get?
Has a lobster with it, and it has
Oh, Robbie's got the crocs too.
I'm always crock and rolling.
Nice.
I'm in
I have
casual mode right now.
a listener of my podcast, not this one, but my other one, made me a troll croc charm, but they like made it themselves. So it's like one of the little troll dolls, and then it's like in my croc. And it's pretty cool.
That is cool.
Yeah, I'm jealous that I didn't even know they had lobster gibbets.
We actually got it from a fan. She gave me one, and then I was like, well, I have twins. Can I have another? And so
That would have been very rude if she won the slam and came home empty-handed.
Yeah.
I always got to bring them something home. I just stuff it all in my bag. Usually the broom bag is full.
My wife did the same thing when I got the job with the slam. She's like, oh, you're going to be away for 5 weeks this year. So how about we start a tradition where you bring me home treats from every place you go? I was like, I bet you would like to start that tradition, wouldn't you?
John, it works.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. Well, thanks, Chloe and Cameron. Nice to see you two. Well, hopefully we'll see you at an event this year.
Yeah, maybe they'll come to the players.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
Ooh,
Toronto.
very similar to PEI.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know, girls, your mom gave me candy once.
Oh no.
I pied
I'll put that up on the screen, but
Yeah.
It looks like, Carrie, there looks like to be a little malice in that pie throw there, judging by the look on your face.
Yeah, I was just like right in there. When he was interviewing me before the game, I was like, pie in the face.
still searching for that footage, by the way.
Yeah, so people may not know this, but that used to be the tradition at the slams, is if you won the slam, you got to pie a member of the crew. So I don't know, Robbie or Carrie, maybe you can tell, like, how did it come that you got to pie Robbie?
I didn't take care to win.
Oh, is that
my
what
lesson.
it is?
Yep.
Oh.
Yeah, I learned. I had a nice lemon meringue right in the face. You know what? You hit hard too. That was square right on the
I'm
nose.
a little aggressive.
No, but hey.
That's what you get for not picking me to win.
I know. I agree, and I learned my lesson. Hasn't happened since.
Now, Carrie, oh, good. Bye, girls.
Hey, girls.
I heard a story, and maybe you can explain it a little bit. But I heard that the 2021 Scotties, you had, I guess, what we might call like Carrie's incredible journey trying to get there. Could you tell me a little bit about how you managed to get to the 2021 Scotties?
Oh shoot! I was really had to try and think back to this, and I was like, oh wait. I now remember. So I get to the airport and with the team, and I went to board the plane, and they're like, "Sorry, ma'am, you can't board." I was like, "What? Why?" They're like, "Your license is expired." And I was like,
Oh no.
shit. I was like, okay. So then I'm like crying, and like, good thing I drove there, so I have my car, and I get in the car, and I'm like, "Okay, girls are taking off," and I'm like, "Hey guys, I'll see you later," and get on a different plane in the evening. So I go home, and I'm crying, and I'm sitting on the couch, and I'm so bummed. I'm like, "Oh my god, like I hope I can get there." And so then I went home, got my passport, and that evening I took another flight there to join the team, and it was absolute chaos. I was like, "Why?"
Because a Maritimer, that's a smooth travel day.
Yeah.
You didn't get like a notice in the mail or something that said like, "Hey, you got to renew your license," or like what was going on?
Not that I saw. I was like, but then I was looking through the pile of stuff I had, and I was like, "Oh, there it is."
Also,
I missed that one.
Well, that's
just say, "Oh, hey, Kerri."
You should have pulled the like,
Yeah.
"Don't you know who I am?" card. That would have been pretty. That would have been pretty awesome.
Yeah, so it was a little stressful, and I was like, "Oh my god, Kyle, can you run my passport here in time?" And blah, blah. No chance. So I was like, "Okay." I just went home, went back to bed, and then woke up and went back to the airport.
So I'm going to throw one out for both you guys here.
Oh, both
you guys spent a little bit of quality time together in PEI. I believe it was the Thursday night.
Mm-hmm.
You guys went to the track, took in some pony races, and head to the Grand Slam of Curling.com to check that out. Tell us about that night.
Oh, it was so.
And did you win?
We didn't bet, actually. I know, right?
The boys did though. The boys were not afraid of betting.
Yeah, and I was like, "Oh, like they got super excited." I was like, "Oh, you must have won a bet."
Yeah. Blair, I think Blair was betting like $1 on every
that
race. I was like,
bet pennies, win pennies.
Well, Kyle actually got lucky one time with horse racing. I was out quadding with a group of friends, and it was during fishing season, so he's like, "I'm gonna stay home and whatever." So then he texts me. He's like, "Oh, I placed some bets on some horses." I was like, "What? Since when do you do that?" And he was like, "I was bored, so I just wanted to bet." So he bets, and then all of a sudden he gets an alert. He's like, "I just won $4,000."
What?
I was like, "What?" He's like, "Yeah, you'll never believe it." I don't believe it. He had absolutely no idea what he was doing with horse racing, and he won big. He's like, "Kerri, it would have been double that if I didn't take back my bet." He bet a little less, and I was like, "What?"
No.
$4,000. So now, whenever we go to Vegas, we play the horse racing, the circle one. Like, I don't know, it's just little ponies that are running down. We sit there.
Yeah, it's not like live horse racing.
But like we sit there for hours and just 20 after 20, and they go. But it's like so entertaining. You're seeing these horses just running around in circles, and yeah, the biggest I've won was only like $120 or something off of it. But yeah, it's fun.
And you rode in the starting gate, right?
Yes, and went in the truck, and that was so cool to see the horses so up close in a race like that. And you could hear the jockeys talking to each other.
Oh, yeah.
Just having full-out conversations. And I'm like, that's different.
Doesn't sound like PEI, does it?
Yeah. Well, it's a nice night out here, eh? Oh, yeah, for sure.
How's the young fellas hockey?
Yeah. But I also didn't expect it to be in carriages. I thought they're just like horse racing. The only ones I've been to is the jockeys on the horse. So, yeah, it was pretty neat. Kristen and I enjoyed our time in the truck, and then, yeah, everyone else also enjoyed it.
Thanks to Kent McPhee, Charlottetown legend, for teeing that up for you guys. It looked fun. I saw the video.
Got to meet his horse, and his horse is so tall. I have never seen a horse that tall before. I was like, holy smokes.
Huh.
But they've been messaging me and telling us that they want us to come back. And
Well, I was gonna say, I mean, so I tweeted about this, but you and I went to the ponies, and you guys won. I also went golfing, and James Craik qualified, and then I also went golfing with Bruce Mouat. They won.
I think
people are calling it the Cullen effect.
I think so. I know. When Craig was saying that they weren't doing so great, and then all of a sudden I was like, oh, they pulled off another win. Oh my God, they qualified. I was like, I think it was us girls.
It was for sure. Yes. I'm not gonna lie, I've already had teams be like, okay, so what's your schedule in Nisku? Like, let's go. We need a little bit of this, we need a little bit of shine here. So but yeah, it was really fun. I mean, you and I we had never really hung out before.
No, it was a good time, and we call you for Nisku. So
okay, done. I'm ready to do whatever it is there is to do in Nisku. I don't know what, but I'm excited for it. There's only sorry. Go
I
ahead,
just want to add one thing. I golfed with James Craik yesterday, and
okay.
I can assure you the Cullen effect has worn off.
It's only good for curling, Robbie. It's only good for curling. That's
Apparently.
it. Now, just a couple more, Kerri. This is something that came up at the ponies that I was very fascinated by. So you've recently kind of changed jobs. You're working as a fisherman now, and you were telling me that you also get violently seasick. So tell me about that, because that seems, when you were explaining it to me, I'm like, this sounds crazy to me.
Yeah. So I'm a commercial fisherman with my husband now. And yeah, like when I'm on the lake with him, if it's dead calm, it's fine. But if it starts getting a little wavy, I am puking the whole time. I was pulling in the nets, Kyle's sitting there laughing at me as I'm puking. He's like, it'll get better. It's fine. I'm like, it will not get better. I get motion sickness. So, but when the boat's going, it's totally okay. But it's once we stop and it starts rocking back and forth. We went out one time with Khloe and Kamryn came with us, and we were helping Kyle, and it was dead calm, beautiful evening. And then all of a sudden, instantly, it just turned. Waves were coming into the boat, and Chloe's like, "Mom, we're gonna die." I'm like, "No, we're fine. It's okay. We aren't gonna die. Like we got our life jackets on. We're okay. We'll be fine." Okay, and then Cameron's getting seasick. I'm getting seasick. Chloe's just sitting there all curled up on the chair.
What do you guys fish, Kerri?
Pickerel.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Cool. And we also smoke fish too. We do gold ice.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
We don't have lakes in PEI. No, literally we don't.
All ocean. All ocean all the time.
Ocean. A few creeks.
Yeah.
Okay, I think this is the last question, Kerri. And, you know, we talked about you kind of getting things back on track at the Slam with a big win. Let's say we have you back on the pod in April. The season's wrapped up. The Players' Championship is wrapped up. We're looking back on this season, and you're calling it a success to us. What has happened between now and then that you're looking back and you're going, this season was a success?
Well, given all the adversity we faced and how we are coming together as a team and a unit, and I definitely look back at all the grit and determination that we are putting ourselves through, and we don't ever give up. And I am very proud of the girls, and you know, every week is a question mark. So. So just trying to get through the season, and you know, just go out there and embrace it and enjoy what we love to do.
Wonderful.
Good answer.
Yeah, great answer. Great answer. Thank you so much, Kerri. Great to have you on the show. Before we go, a chance to plug your sponsors for us.
Definitely want to say thank you to Kubota, to Manitoba Métis Federation, to Hardline, to Manitoulin, to Apex, to That Stuff for Pain. They just came on board, and it's such a cool name. Like
it is. I saw
great.
that and I was like, is this real?
Yeah.
Is this a real thing? That Stuff for Pain? Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm like, Kyle was putting on his boots this morning to go fishing, and he's like, oh, my back. I was like, do you need that stuff? And Remax, we can't thank our sponsors enough for all their support, and we couldn't do what we love without them.
Wonderful.
Great.
Thanks so much, Kerri. Best of luck with the rest of the season. And Robbie, go ahead.
Oh, and Love Strata. And Love Strata. Can't forget that one.
Give Brianne our best.
Yes, for sure. I will pass that along.
Thanks, Kerri.
Awesome. Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, Robbie, that was a great chat with Kerri Einarson. Really, it was great for me to meet her at the, like I said, it's weird. There's just some teams over the years that I never really crossed paths with on tour. And so it was great to spend time with her on Thursday night and great to chat to her, obviously in good spirits. And I'm excited to see where things go for them the rest of the year. Now it is time for the final segment of the show, which is Let's Play a Game. And Robbie, I'm going to put your own knowledge of your own career to the test now.
Goodness. Oh boy.
I know. I wanted to really get you dialed in here. So I love these. There's these Instagram videos and stuff that various people do. You've maybe seen them before, but they'll interview baseball players about who the starting lineup was for their opening game, like the first game they ever played in the majors. They'll be like, who else was in the lineup? So Robbie, your first Briar was the 2015 Tim Hortons Briar.
Yep.
I want you to tell me who the skips were for every team at the 2015 Briar.
Oh,
you
gosh.
can do them in any order you want, and I'll help you out with some of them along the way if you need.
Okay. I'm going to try to go west to east.
Okay.
Jim Cotter.
Jim Cotter was BC.
Kevin Koe.
Kevin Koe's Alberta. Steve Laycock, Saskatchewan.
Steve Laycock.
Yep.
Yeah. Reed
was Manitoba.
Manitoba. Brad Jacobs, Northern Ontario.
Yep.
Glenn Howard, Ontario.
Wrong.
Oh, Mark Keane. Mark Keane.
That was the year that Mark Keane with Matt Cam, David Mathers, and Scott Howard snuck into the
Mathers on the show. We don't get along.
Okay, sorry.
Joking.
I know.
Jean-Michel Menard.
Yeah, that was Quebec.
Who was New Brunswick? Jeremy Mallet.
Jeremy Mallet was New Brunswick.
Ooh, who was skipping Nova Scotia? Was it Glenn?
It was Glenn McLeod skipping, Peter Burgess throwing last.
Yep. Brad Gushue.
Yep, Brad Gushue for Newfoundland. Yep.
Jamie Koe.
Jamie Koe was Northwest Territories. And you should know the Yukon. You should know the Yukon because you beat them in the relegation game.
Oh, no. Who was it? I know Wade Scoffin was on the team, but he wasn't the skip.
Wade Scoffin was the third on that team, yes.
I can't remember who the skip was.
That's how much you put relegation out of your mind, hey? That you
Hey, we got out that year, and I told you
did get out.
We got right back in the next year.
Yeah, you did get out that year. Yep.
Who was that? Was it Bobby? I can't remember.
You need a last name. His first name is Bob.
Bob Smallwood.
Bob Smallwood. There you go.
Yes,
you got it.
yes. I wasn't sure if he was. And then Nunavut was.
They were not there.
They were not there. Okay.
Yeah. So.
Then Team Canada.
Team Canada is your last one. Yep.
Pat Simmons. There you go. So how do you do against
Briar? You do remember. I'm proud of you, Robbie. Congratulations. You succeeded. You played the game properly.
The night we played Saskatchewan, Brett the Hitman Hart was in the third row. That was the most nervous I've ever been. I don't mean in curling? No, ever. Yeah. It was in Calgary at the Scotiabank Saddle Dome, and of course Pat Simmons won that year, beating Brad Jacobs in the final. So but losing to PEI in the round robin.
Did lose to PEI in the round robin. Is that why they changed?
Yeah. No, literally, it was the next game. Hey,
They couldn't
if I
handle losing to you, eh?
If I lost to me, I'd do the same thing.
Yeah, you guys beat them 7-4. So nice work there, Robbie. Thanks everybody for tuning in. We will be back here in 2 weeks' time with another episode of Broom Brothers. You can follow us everywhere. We're at Broom Brothers adjacent on most platforms. We're on Twitter, we're on YouTube, we're on Instagram. Like and subscribe to the pod. If you like it, please review it as well. That really helps us in the iTunes algorithm. And we do have to thank you. The first episode of the show, we went to the number 4 top sports podcast in Canada. So thank you all for listening and for your support. If you're enjoying the show, please tell a friend, tell a curling friend, and we'll see you back here in 2 weeks. Goodbye.
Thanks, everybody.